I'd like to invite now to the stage a young guy who's been around the place for just a little while. Ted Keating is one of our experienced ministers, and he's had ministries in VicTas, significant conferences we used to, or Brotherhood probably we called it in the olden days, Ted, when you were there. Ministries as well as here at Blackburn, Nunawading, Blackburn, which is now One Community, and in Wollongong, but more recently someone who's been a gift to us and a gift to a couple of congregations down on the peninsula, and we're going to hear a little bit about that. There are a few questions, a few areas that I know Ted's going to quickly cover in just a few minutes, and some pickies as well, and I know we can trust him with that. There you go.
You just made a big mistake, Paul. Yes, don't retire. It's a very dangerous process. Marge and I moved to the peninsula some 7 years ago and quickly encountered the Red Hill and Tookarook churches where, with the help of Paul, we helped them discover what their problem was. I remember Paul asking, where will you be in 10 years? And they didn't have a solution to that, so they decided to amalgamate. And that agreement, I'm just going to quickly move through this, but let me tell you that each stage involved heaps of work. And they agreed to amalgamate. They agreed to sell their properties, which took some work, and also to buy a new property. That was a very God moment, I believe, as we moved to a new property on the corner of Jetty Road and Inglewood Crescent. As we were looking at this burnt-out, dirty, smelly old warehouse, we also discovered that there was a children's care centre right behind it. We saw the gate was locked and we realised that it wasn't being used. So we were able to buy both at once. What would a group of 70-year-olds do with a child care centre? I'll tell you. But one of the big things that we had to work on, and this is where in the initial stages we discovered that probably their focus as two churches was survival. We wanted to turn that around and make it a culture of mission. And that took some work. And as we built the church, we also had to build the building. And that involved starting off with 40 people and moving first of all into a retirement place, and then to this new property where we moved into the childcare centre. Now, if you could imagine 70-year-olds on their walking frame walking into this childcare centre and playgrounds. Well, we had fun on the playgrounds, but we also had to discover that this church had to lower its average age. And the first young family that walked in, we surrounded them. We wouldn't let them escape. They led the boys' club, the girls' club, and all the other things. The other thing that we had to do very quickly too was to change the worship style. We couldn't keep on singing "Why Do You Wait, Dear Brother" and other Sankey songs, and we swung that around very, very gradually, very slowly, but with a great degree of tolerance from people of my age group plus. Now, that also meant a changing of the guard. Each church had its patriarchs, each church had its leaders, and as we've moved on, we've discovered that new people coming in, they had to stand back, and they have done it very, very graciously. It's been an incredible story of change led by older people who were willing to take risks. Now, since moving into the new building, things have changed. We started off with 40 people. When we were in the childcare centre, we grew to around about 85. Once we moved into the new building, last month we averaged 160 at worship, and the place is growing like crazy. Last night we had a welcome dinner. My wife worked her butt off on that one, and we had, I think it was 55 we invited, and 35 new worshippers there, plus the council. Now that's pretty good because it's only a few months since we ran the last one. Now, the other thing that has swung around, of course, is the worship. We're very middle of the road, we're very moderate, but according to my age group, we're very, very contemporary as well. Yeah. Now, we've grown. We've grown from other churches. The Pentecostal church had its biannual split, and a few of those moved across to us. We have a few people move from Melbourne churches, and the other thing, though, that is really exciting are the people who are new to the faith. At our welcome dinner last night, we had about 4 or 5 who didn't have a church before they came to us. We baptised something like 9 in December, January last year, and we discovered that these people came in through our Music Time program, and they didn't have a previous faith. Now, this is what we're on about. We're running Alpha at the moment. How many, Marge, coming to Alpha? 14. And some of these guys who are coming don't come to church yet. So we're very excited about that. We're just moving into becoming a church that is developing community awareness. We had an exciting day in March where we had a bike parade, motorbike parade, and this was to make a protest against violence towards women. And we had something like 500 Harley bikes turn up from all across Melbourne, and it was an incredible day. Rosie Batty was the preacher and all that type of thing. What is our future? Well, we believe we've got a very, very strong future as we move into a new era. We believe that we've got to a certain stage and it's time to move on. We also believe that it's getting closer to the time for Marge and I to move on. We've looked at possible amalgamations. We had a bit of a chat to the Rosebud Baptist Church, but they wanted to bring New Peninsula Bats in. Not only did they want to do that, but they wanted to take us over, so we backed out of that one. But we're also talking to local Churches of Christ. We're taking out a weekly lottery ticket. We'll get there. We'll get there. We've also decided that it's time for us to move into youth ministry. We've also decided it's time for us to increase our community service. And next month we're running a divorce recovery group. Our music time during the week, this is where we use our property. We have something like 70 little children come in 2 days a week. They dance around in time to the music. We relate to the mums, where our older people sort of do the tea and coffee and cut up the fruit. And the relationships are excellent. And we've seen a trickle of new worshippers come in through that. As we analyse it all, as we think about it, what has been the secret of what I think has been a very successful time? Well, you can't leave the Holy Spirit out of it. When you see old people who are willing to change, willing to take a risk, and you compare it with what you see in other congregations of the same age group, I believe that the Holy Spirit was working at that moment. When we walked past the gate of the play centre and we saw the lock on the gate, that was an aha moment where we believed that God led us to be buying 2 properties at once. I have to acknowledge very strongly the assistance of Conference. Properties Corp, Paul and others have helped us negotiate various hurdles that we've faced, and this has been partially a story of their work as well. We've worked on the principle that we want to work as a church a size larger than what we are, and that has been a very, very important principle for us. We're focused very heavily on the Sunday event initially, because this was a means of growth, and really, if I was honest, people living on the Southern Peninsula don't have a great deal of choice as far as church is concerned. And the fact that we've concentrated on the Sunday event, we've worked very hard at the welcoming, we've worked very hard at the follow-up as well, has been a major factor. The fact that we've got streamlined governance. Now, both churches were used to having their meetings, their general meetings, where they'd vote on the fillings of the Sunday school picnic sandwiches and things like that. Those days are gone. And while we're referring to the congregation, while we're trying to find out what the general feeling is, we've got a council that takes the initiative and gives leadership. The other thing is that we're focused on being a church for others. Now, when you're developing a church and you find people moving in, a lot of the people have got an idea of what you should be doing. Now, we listen, we ascertain, and we move on. We've kept our focus on being a church that is there for others. We've kept it simple, and we don't want to be led all over the place, because once we do that, we believe that we would lose our focus. The facilities have been a major part of our growth. We had some growth when we were in the family centre, but we've seen tremendous growth since we've moved into the worship centre. And it's an amazing transformation. I believe the same story here. Amazing transformation of a building that should have been knocked over, and we've turned it into a wonderful worship centre. I believe, when I think about the change that has occurred, and Paul might have a comment about this, I believe that if a young Turk had walked in and said, yeah, this is what we're going to do, they would have rejected it. The fact that Marge has got grey hair and Marge has got wrinkles, and I don't have, I think that has made a tremendous difference. The fact that they've acknowledged, the fact that we've been around the block a few times as far as ministry is concerned, has meant there's been respect and acceptance. In the early days of our amalgamation, this won't surprise some of you, I was quite authoritarian in the way we did things. Now we're in the process of consulting, and the leadership style has changed as the church has grown. I just thank God for the privilege of being part of this, and in the coming years I'm going to thank God for the continued growth that Bayview Church will have.